Episode 26. We're going to skip the long, sexy intros that I do that I know all of you guys love, but we're going to hop straight into the toughest quarterback situation of the week. The toughest quarterback situation of the week is near to my heart. I love the kid. I've worked with him for 6 years. Great friend of mine, great family. But unfortunately, this week, that man is Brady Cook. Brady Cook is a redshirt senior coming back after a long career of overcoming a lot of adversity. Goes 11-2 last year and beats Ohio State in a BCS bowl game to give Missouri one of their best football seasons that they've had in school history. And they come back this season as a top 10 team with a lot of guys returning on offense. Their schedule, it's been very notable that they don't have a very difficult schedule this season. So through the first 4 games of the season, he's kind of been put in a tough position of like, we more or less know we're going to win these football games. Yeah. And now he heads in off of bye week into week 6 of college football, but his 5th game of the season, kind of walking into a sleeping bear, dude, a sleeping giant, which is just at Kyle Field, at Texas A&M. And when you look at the overall performance from the team, from the refs, from the entire Saturday, and just what happened, it was a nightmare Saturday. A nightmare Saturday. So, Mitch, I watched that thing start to finish. I lived it. It hurt quite a bit. So I'll break down a little bit of it and then kind of lob it over to you to get your thoughts. But, you know, when you go into a matchup like this, number 9 team against the number 24 team in the country, yet you haven't seen fully who you are yet offensively because you haven't been tested that way. You know, every team is a new team. And so last year they had a ton of confidence. And then this year they have one of the best receiving corps in the country, a good offensive line. They're coming into this game and they expect themselves to have a lot of success. But you walk into that Hornets nest, dude. And that Hornets nest is a team who's coming alive on the other side. That Hornets nest is a team who's played 3 Power 5 opponents already. And you've only played Boston College to this point. So the team has been physically tested more than you have. And then, Mitch, I think I want to start throwing this to you as we continue to go through the game. But Brady had a very unfortunate interview in the week going into the game. And Brady's a really smart kid, usually doesn't step into these traps, didn't really intend to, but you and I both know, dude, they're going to take shit out of context the moment that they can. So basically the question was from one of the Mizzou reporters, how do you feel about the noise that's coming at Kyle Field on Saturday? Like, let's go first to a quarterback, to a captain and starting quarterback, and ask you, Mitch, you're going into Clemson this week, and we all know what that environment's like. How do you feel about walking to that environment? Kind of give me your answer and give me like why or how you answer that question.
Yeah, like to the media, like I was never big on. I answered every question in the media very like professionally in a way. Like I never really gave them much. And how I would answer that question is, yeah, we know it's going to be really loud. They have a very passionate fan base that is football educated and they know when to yell. And we know there's going to be some obstacles with the noise, and we're gonna deal with it the best we can. And we have a plan in place, and we hope to execute it. And but yeah, we're expecting a lot of noise, and we're ready for it. We're excited for it.
Well, and when you say professionally, like I think professionally can go in much of different directions, especially for a young cat. But then you followed it up with something where you said like I don't give them much. So just kind of what is approaching the media professionally? Just that's a great answer to that question, obviously. But like when you talk about answering that question, like I guess give me like they're laying a trap. Yeah. So like how what is that trap? How do you step into that trap? And then like you just said, like how do you avoid it?
Yeah, they're basically they want you to say, "Oh, we're not worried about the noise. We'll be fine." And that's just not true. Like that's you might not be worried about the noise, but you're going to have a false start. I guarantee you are going to have a false start in an environment like that. No matter what you do, your left tackle or right tackle, because they're 6 feet from the ball, are going to jump because they thought they heard something. It's going to happen. So then you just become a meme at that point because you said you're not worried about it, and then you had a penalty. They want you to say things that they can put as a headline, and when you don't give them much, they can't do that. I was never on a headline with what I said, and that probably wasn't a very interesting interview. I don't care. I don't care. But I'd love to be like, hell yeah, I'm excited for the Noise. I know there's going to be a bunch of people booing me and a bunch of people wanting me to lose, and we're going to silence those motherfuckers. Yeah, that's what I want to say. But there's the battle is not won Monday through Friday on Twitter and ESPN. Like, it's not. So just giving them, and when I meant professional, I meant like just a very calculated, cordial, non-interesting, basic answer. Really.
I mean, dude, how about one of my favorite answers from Belichick of all time was they were like, you're going into Arrowhead Stadium, like it's going to be a raucous environment, like it's crazy in there, like it's going to be loud. He's like, they go, well, when would you think that you simulate like an event like that? Or when would you say that like you feel the pressure of that the way that you will in Arrowhead? And he goes, practice.
Exactly.
It was like, while that's kind of an insulting answer to Arrowhead, like it's like back to Mitch's point, like saying nothing, like practice,
saying a whole bunch of stuff, but saying nothing.
And so Brady has been very dynamic at the mic. I've followed him for years. He never gives bulletin board material, but people will take your shit out of context too.
Yep.
So like what he said was he just got a little too loose. And what he said was he was like, to be honest with you, like they're doing such a good job in practice of pumping in crowd noise with the speakers that like I'm really just not that worried about it. And it's like, again, harmless.
Yeah.
Like wasn't calling out the fan base at A&M, had no visceral intent behind what he was saying. And yet, dude, that's all you need for the fucking 12th man to be going nuts, for everything all over Twitter to be saying that you said that it's not going to be loud on Saturday, all that shit. And that's on it going into the game. Like Mike Elko, I guess he stood up in front of that rally that they do the night before big games. And he was like, pretty funny that the quarterback from Missouri, like, doesn't think this thing's going to be loud tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I'm pretty sure they had 2 delay of games and 2 false starts, and they put up on the Jumbotron like his quote, like during the game, which is just, that's a tough spot to be in, and that's juju and things going on as a side piece. Okay, then the game starts, and it's 4th and 1 on the first drive of the game. They took the ball, 4th and 1, first drive of the game in plus territory. They play action, run a post, ballsy call. He underthrows a post, so like it is a miss. But also, dude, they throw a PI and they wave the PI off. And it's like when you watch that collision with the receiver on the outside, again, I'm not saying Texas A&M doesn't win the game, guys. I'm not implicating any of that. I'm talking about Brady Cook Saturday and the momentum of the game. Yeah. You go down at Kyle Field and you score a fucking touchdown to start the game as the number 9 team in the country. Completely different mood, completely different aura, completely different rhythm, completely different momentum. And they throw that flag. So now, I mean, I guess, Mitch, let's go there. 4th and 1, okay? You underthrow a ball, so you're pissed at yourself for that. But bullshit penalty. Yeah. They take over. They score 5 plays later. Yeah. So you went from potentially being up 7-0 to now being down 7-0. And if you haven't been there, I've been there 4 times. It's fucking nuts. So I know you can kind of put it in your head, but how's that change everything about what's going on at Kyle Field?
Yeah, just the energy in the stadium is completely as nuts as it's going to be already. You've given them something to cheer for. And now they're into it even more, and which is tough because it's already hard as hell to play there. But it's hard to have that perspective of knowing what you should have had, and now you don't have it, and having to regroup it. Okay, well that did not work out. We should be up 7-0, but now we're down 7-0. All right, regroup, refocus. Now we have to keep going from there. It's hard not to keep that in the back of your mind because it's a constant frustration. Like, man, if we just had that, we'd be up 7-0 or whatever. So getting that out of your mind, understanding that that's not the case, and dealing with the hand you were dealt and moving forward with it is the only way to go about it. Because sitting and sulking and being pissed off about it It's done. It's over. There's no time to think about it. It's time to move on, and it's time to focus on what you got to do now.
Exactly. And that's what he did. I know that's what he did. And he trots back out on the field. So it's 7-0. They trot back out for their second drive. They go 3 and out, and he gets sacked. They give it back to A&M. A&M goes down, kicks a field goal. It's 10-0. Now you come out for your third drive of the game. You're down 2 scores. The 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th man has been activated down at Texas A&M. The loud nature of the way that the game's being played around you and the juice that they have to knock your ass out too. What does that do at the line of scrimmage to actual gameplay, Mitch, like within the game, when it's that fucking deafening loud in there? Like, where do the advantages stack, and how does that make our job more difficult?
Dude, it's so hard. It is so hard. And you will, in my honest opinion, playing on the road in an environment, if they played, let's say they play that game and Missouri's at home. Let's just say they scored 35 points. You are not scoring more than 28 on the road in the same game. You're losing a touchdown. You really are. And it has nothing to do with the ability. It's just the fact that at Wake, we were very up-tempo, right? And we were just, our cadence was ready to go. So we echoed a call. So, let's just say a call was like, pencil left, whatever, just some bullshit, right? That's a call. 2-word calls. We're going fast, and then it's ready to go. We're snapping it in 10 seconds. We're at Clemson, right? I have to go to my left tackle, then all the way to my right tackle, and yell to them what the play is because it's so loud. Yeah. They cannot hear it. My general, I left guard, center, right guard, 3 times really quick. I am having to go to each individual lineman, get in their ear, scream it. So that's taking 10 seconds. And then we're not going clap cadence because too loud. I'm dropping my indicator. My guard is tapping the center. The center's extending his hand and snapping it. So our pre-snap routine went from like 7 to 8 seconds to 15 to 16.
Totally.
There's no such thing as up-tempo on the road like that. So and all this time they're disguising their coverages. They're sitting back. They don't have to show anything. And they're hitting like there's no painted picture for you. Everything they're able to move around a shit ton. And after all that, then you got to look at the defense and figure out what's going on. And not only does it measure your pre-snap, your pre-snap process with your guys up front, but also it can make you play faster because of how like when you can't hear yourself, dude, it's just white noise. Like it's almost like you're playing a silent football game because you can't hear anything.
Totally.
Like it might speed up your internal clock just because you feel like the energy is so high and it's like shaking on the field. It can speed you up. And in my first quarter versus Clemson, I was so sped up because it was just such a loud environment. I mean, it's 100,000 people screaming at you. The whole just a constant scream. And I mean, it's so dope. It's so dope. But
it's amazing. I mean, it's the feeling that you live for, but when you're on the wrong side of it, like
so hard.
If it's 10-10, like that's a very different feeling than 10-0.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Mitch covered it great. I think the only other thing that I would say is like Texas A&M has some fucking dogs up front now.
Oh, so dogs.
Their D-line. And so what Mitch was talking to you about procedurally just then is like, dude, think about when my right guard has to look back at me,
right?
And then he gets like, yo, I'm ready. And then he turns to the center and whatever they do, whether he slaps his leg or whether he says something to him, it's like, you don't think that big ass D end and big D tackle are watching your right guard tell your fucking center, hey, it's time.
Yep.
It's like one of those things where they're fucking standing up, dude, and they're just walking around and hovering around and like hanging out.
Going like this.
And then they see the tap and then they're like, all right. And it's like, I mean, it's the same thing to me as like, imagine if you were running a 100-meter dash at the Olympics and it's like, and you were able to get into the blocks and right as you get set, shoot, as opposed to have to sit in the blocks for 30 seconds. It's like very different.
And not only that, your tackles can't hear the snap count.
Right.
So how we did it at Wake, it was a drop the hand from me, and then my guard would tap the center. The center would extend his hand out so that the tackles could see through his vision that he was going to snap it. Then he would say, ready, go, and snap it. But the tackles, like, they can't hear anything. So they're kind of moving off the guard. So you get a lot of late jumps from your tackles. And when you're playing A&M, who's got NFL DNs, bro, you're cooked. Like it makes it so hard. It makes it so hard.
Poor word choice with Cook's episode here, but 100.
Sorry. I did it. Sorry, Brady.
100%. Okay, so
My bad, Brady.
it's all good. So it's 10-0, okay, and now Mizzou's taking the field for their third drive of the game. Okay, they're on their own 25-yard line. First down, shit. Second down, couple yards. Third down, dude. He breaks out of the pocket to the right, and Luther Burden opens up down the field. Throws Luther the ball. Luther rolls 75 for a touchdown. 10-7, dude. Here we go, except illegal lineman downfield, dude.
Yeah, tough one.
The biggest sucker punch ever, dude. Now, the third and whatever, 15, 20, after you just lost a 70-yard touchdown, you punt the ball off, they score.
Yeah.
So technically, you're a good drive to start the game, 4th and 1, turn it over on downs, a 3-and-out, a 3-and-out. You're looking up at the scoreboard, and it's 17-0 already.
Yeah.
Everything that we're talking about is now just getting thicker. That's it. You come out there for the next drive, go 3-and-out again. They score another touchdown. I mean, that is the definition of a fucking nightmare. Yeah. Like, you're 3-and-outs out of your 4 possessions and a 4th and 1 that was a bullshit call and you underthrew it. And you are down 24-0 before you can even blink. Then you go on an 8-play drive and you get down to the Texas A&M, the 38-yard line, and you take a sack out of field goal range and you have to punt the ball again. Yeah. Texas A&M goes into the half. You are down 24-0 going into the second half, and now is the reason that he's the guy of the week is, he was 13 of 31, which is, that's brutal. That's a brutal day at the yard. 13 of 31 for 186 yards. But also a big reason why he's the guy of the week is because, Mitch, have we ever seen the number 9 team in the country down 24-0 at halftime to a team that's 24th or unranked at that point? Like, have you seen that before?
Not often, especially with an offense that dynamic. That offense is the reason why that team is ranked so high.
100%. So now you go into the implications of what that does to your thought process. So, like, you're down 24-0 on the road at Kyle Field. You took the ball to start the game, so you don't even get the ball to start the second half. You're down 24-0. We're going to go both of us here. Where's your mind right now? 24-0, sitting in the locker room. Like, you haven't turned the ball over, so it's not like, you haven't played super shitty, but you guys also haven't played well. So just where's the head at? Down 24-0 at Texas A&M.
Yeah, it's almost desperation time just because, you don't want it to be, but with the way they ran the ball, you understand you're probably not going to have a ton of possessions. You're probably going to get 6 possessions in the second half if you're lucky with how well they're running the ball and how well they're playing. And with just how, you come back in that locker room and you get a little bit of a break from the noise. You forget how loud it is when you get back out there. That noise is still going to be there. 110,000 people is so many people. So it's almost like you have to wake back up and understand that you're going back into the arena with all the chaos. And it's a point to reflect and a point to kind of calm yourself down and just be tactical and understand what comes next. But it's a tough spot when you understand how well they're running the ball and you're not going to have a ton of possessions left, and it becomes have to possessions. You have to score to keep yourself in this game, and unfortunately they weren't able to do that.
And a have to, position to be in is never a good position to be in.
No.
So you're in the locker room. I think you covered it really well there. The only other thing that I would say is he's a captain. He's been in the program for a long time. Yeah. So it's not only about his performance, it's also about the team's performance. Yeah, and 100%. These guys are looking to you because you're the guy. So Do you say anything? Do you not say anything? What do you say? How do you handle that? Down 24-0. And again, he didn't play miserable, but he hasn't been playing well. So, like, how do you address your team in that situation?
Yeah, that's a great point, Aust. Like, not only it's crazy because you're down in the locker room. Like, again, like we talked about this last episode, being down at ODU. It's like, all right. I mean, we were down a lot in the locker room, unfortunately, but it's like, okay, not only are you worried about what you have to do in the second half, but it's like, all right, what's the pulse of the team here? You have to think as a captain and as a quarterback, you can't think about yourself. You have to think about the team as a whole. Everybody's looking at you to get the guys going. And it's such a tough situation, and you really have to think externally to okay, what's the pulse of the team? What do the guys need from me? Are we good? At this point, you're not. 24-0, no. But is it a point, okay, what kind of message do I give? Do I fire them up? Is it encouraging? What do we need here? What's going to be best for the group? But second of all, it's like, well, if I get up there and say something, bro, I haven't held up my end of the bargain. We haven't scored a single point. So it's like, do I go up there and say something? Am I allowed to? Have I earned it? We haven't done our part of it. We haven't done our job. So it's all these things you don't think about in the locker room at halftime is like, what do I say? How do I address it? Should I say anything? We haven't scored a freaking point. I dealt with that all the time. We'd be down, 21-7 at halftime. I'm like, bro, should I say something? Like, we've played like shit on offense. Like, what am I going to do? Say, like, hey, man, let's keep fighting. Like, everybody keep playing hard. Well, they're looking at me like, hey, how about you start fucking doing your job?
Right.
So it's a tough situation to be in. And we're not even talking about the actual game you have to go win. So it's a great point. A lot of people don't.
I mean, and I think to party hat what you just said, like, I'm going to read whether my coach is doing a lot of talking or not. Yeah. Because if my coach is doing a lot of talking, sometimes I can go like, okay, he kind of said everything that needed to be said.
Exactly.
Like, if he does what I've seen also guys do, which is like more or less like, you guys need to fucking think about some shit. I'm going to fucking go over here and talk to the coaches. Like, you guys figure it the fuck out. Yeah. It's like, that's when you sit there and you're like, fuck, okay, it's my time. Yeah. And for any of you guys who have been in this situation, again, remember, he's not playing very well. You're down 24-0. Huge nationally televised game. You're a top 10 team in the country with playoff and national championship aspirations. To me, the only thing you can do is talk about what you're feeling and relate that to the team. Guys, I haven't taken care of my business. I haven't played very well to this point, and you guys obviously know that we haven't as a team right now. Yeah. What I feel right now is I don't feel like myself, and I want to get back to being myself. Yeah. And the only way I'm going to get back to being myself is one play at a time, dude, and just executing and flipping this momentum, because let's be real. To come back down 24-0, like, we are going to have to play one hell of a half, and they're going to have to make a couple mistakes. Yep. And the only way that we can fucking do this, and I believe we can do this, is one play at a time. Yeah. That would be my only suggestion in terms of what you can say. Really? Other than that, let's go play. You kick the ball off to start the second half, and on the first play of the second half, they run for a fucking 75-yard touchdown. Yeah. 31 zip. You get the ball back, you go out there, 3 and out. They get the ball back, 34-0. They go down, kick a field goal. It's 34-0 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. And you finally roll out, beautiful play, rolled out, threw a bomb, 60-yard touchdown, and they score. It's now 34-7. Then we get a punt. We go on somewhat of a drive. We turn the ball over on downs. Then they go score a touchdown, 41-7. Then we turn the ball over on downs, and the rest is history. I mean, the rest is truly history. So now I think we turn the page into, again, you want to be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country. You have NFL draft aspirations. You have a weaker schedule, so the opportunities for you to show that you're that caliber of quarterback are less. And this was your first opportunity, and you guys royally got your ass kicked. So not only are you let down from, what you thought could have been this game, you're now trying to turn the page to like, well, we do still have our season out in front of us in the sense that like, if we can win out or only lose one more, like we could still potentially go to the playoff. But the narrative is turned into you're a fucking idiot for what you said about Texas A&M's crowd. Yeah. Like, you were supposed to lead this team and you played like shit on the road when they needed you. How the fuck does an offense with 3 of the best receivers in the country and a returning quarterback and an O-line that was bought and paid for through the transfer portal only score 7-10 points in 4 quarters against a team that isn't one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the SEC? Mizzou fans are pretty ruthless. I coached there for 5 years, so like they are all the way with you when shit is good, and they are all the way ready to burn you at the stake when shit's not.
Yeah.
You now go into a week where you're playing UMass next week, so it's one of those deals where it's like, fuck, I can't even really get back out there and show it because you could throw 8 touchdowns against UMass and no one's going to give a shit. Yeah. So Mitch, just, you're on that flight home back to Columbia, Missouri. Like, just where you at? Where you at?
Yeah, I think it's tough, especially with, their weaker schedule that they have, and it's not weak, but it's not, they're not
the easiest SEC schedule I've ever seen. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's tough because you don't have a ton of opportunities, like you said, to prove it versus the big boys, and you don't want to, if you split, say you play, A&M and Georgia or A&M and Bama, right? And you split, you go 1-1, you're 11-1, and it's like, all right, well, they beat A&M and that was a big win, and then they lost Alabama, they split. But if you go 9-3 and you lost all 3 big games, those 9 wins don't really mean much, and for playoff implications, for the college football season implications, but also for Brady, and what he wants to do and what he wants to prove. And it's tough. It just feels like, one of those opportunities slipped away, and you don't have a ton of those. And you don't want that to be like, oh, every time I play in a big game, we lose. And that adds some extra pressure to you, especially with his goals and what he wants to do. And it's hard. And that's a silent ride home to Columbia. And I'm sure he thought a lot, had a lot to think about, and reflected a lot. And I always kind of liked, those flights, I didn't like this, but when you get home, I always kind of liked when we landed and you got on that bus. So I was kind of like, all right, we're on the bus, we're about to get home to our to the facility, unpack, and that's kind of just like, all right, what's done is done. I've had time to think about it. I'm gonna go up, watch a tape real quick. I'm gonna go home, get some food, go to bed, and tomorrow's a new day. And I think I always appreciate that kind of process of just like after win or loss, just kind of being able to decompress and think about things on the way home. And I'm sure he had a lot to think about, but I know that in the back of his mind, there's a lot of those thoughts of, played one big game so far and we got our ass kicked. If we lose 2 big games and there are only 2 big games of the year, what's that going to look like on our team's end? What's that going to look like on my end? And it's a tough situation to be in, for sure.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, I think to your point, like I think a great thing that Mitch just brought up, although he passed it in the night pretty quickly there, but I think it's a great point for you high school guys and stuff like that is when you don't play well or your team doesn't play well and you're in a tough position, like, dude, I remember getting home from a couple flights at like 3 a.m. and didn't go home. Went straight upstairs and was like, I'm going to watch this thing 3, 4, 5 fucking times until nowadays, I think they have like iPads on the plane and shit too. But but I'm watching that thing 3, 4, 5 times so that I can turn the page. Yeah. Like, I don't want to reopen this book tomorrow.
Oh, never. No.
It's already open, dude. Yeah. Like, the hell am I going to do when I go home right now? Have a beer and sit there? Like, it's going to suck no matter what. So I'm going to watch this thing and put it behind me. So you play like shit and you get an opportunity to watch that game. Like, I think it's a great way to kind of, start the next week even sooner. Exactly. Is like a way that I would kind of think about it. Exactly. And now you look at like it's tough to call it a positive, right? But like the only positive that I think that you can take away from this situation is that I know that there were aspirations of going undefeated and being that team, and that's gone. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where like whatever that weight was that you were carrying of having to win every game or those things, kind of like what we talked about with Jackson Arnold, even though like he's not getting the opportunity to play, but it's like, Dude, everyone thought that you were going to replace Dylan Gabriel and potentially be this Heisman quarterback. You go out and shit the bed. Now everybody thinks you suck. So now I can kind of take the field next week and go, everyone fucking thinks I suck, so who cares? It's like, well, the Mizzou Tigers thought of themselves as a national championship contender, and they still do on some level, even despite this gut punch. But, like, now it's like, dude, fuck it.
Yeah.
And I hope that that's the page that he's turning.
Yeah.
I hope that that's the page that he's turning
Yeah.
because his team needs him. His coaches need him. That guy has been such an anchor in that locker room for the last 3 years. And that anchor is going to be leaned on even more heavily now because this is the other part of quarterback, right, guys? Is like they're looking at you. They're looking at you.
Yeah.
After a game like that, that's our guy. So we're looking at him. We all fucked up. We're not looking at him like you're the reason. That's not what it is. But we are looking at him like, how are you doing, dog? Like, are you ready to go do this shit?
Yeah.
So, Mitch, kind of like you get back, you put the game to bed, you move on. Like, talk about, like, is that something that you would consciously think about as like, I'm aware that my teammates are paying attention to my body language and where I'm at? And if so, what did you do? Because, that's a tough spot.
Yeah, dude, 100%. And I think that's something we don't cover a ton in these episodes. We always talk about how they feel because of like the game or the performance, but we never really talked about much. Like, no matter how shitty you're feeling, bro, you're still the starting quarterback and most likely the captain of your team. You have a team to like lead. So as shitty as Brady's feeling, like today at lifts and walkthroughs and meetings, like he had to put on a tough face for all those guys. And that's not something that we really honestly have brought up. I don't know why. I never thought I don't know why. But like that's the hardest part about it, dude, is like, bro, games after you don't play well and you feel like you're the reason why you lost, and then like, bro, you're in the facility like kind of embarrassed. Like you feel bad. And it's like you walk past a D lineman who busted his ass. What do you say? What do you say? Like, do you apologize? Like, no, you don't apologize.
Dude, especially because just as you keep going, like, you're getting paid. And everyone knows it. And we ain't throwing out dollar figures, but you're getting paid.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So it's just like you walk past like a group of D linemen watching tape, and you like, it's a tough conversation. It's like you don't apologize to the guys, but it's like, you know, it's like, do you put on like a positive? Like, do you act like nothing happened? Like, do you act like, hey, like positive? What's up, guys? How we doing? Feeling all right? Like, or do you act somber? It's like, how do you want to be perceived? But you don't want to. It's a very hard thing to navigate, and I always did it by being authentic. I just walk up to like, say I'm walking past some D lineman, and we're just walking to the facility together. How you guys feeling? Sore? Yeah, fucking sucked, didn't it? Like, just be real. Like, that fucking blew, bro. We should have won that fucking game. Sucks, bro. But then just being like, hey, man, it's done. Not shit we can do about it. It sucks, but we got another opportunity this week. Let's roll. And you kind of acknowledge that, hey, I fucked up. It sucks for me too. We got our ass kicked yesterday, but it's done. So kind of in that way is how I always went about it, because it's like, I'm not gonna go fucking joke around with those guys like after we got our ass kicked and like they're like, does this kid even care? Like, it's a very fine line. It's hard.
and I think for parents, like we've had some parents reach out to us that listen to these episodes and like have really, really appreciated it. And like, I think that this is something that we can open up about that parents don't fully understand. A lot of people don't understand, but parents especially, which is like the mask that gets born in those times.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Mitch and I, dude, we love our parents just as much as Brady does, right? And it's like, your dad comes up to you after the game and he's like, how you doing, Mitch? Like, how are you? It's like, the fuck am I supposed to say? Like, Dad, I actually feel fucking miserable. I think that everything that I wanted the beginning of this season to go like is not intact. I just got my ass kicked back there, and I'm flying back to Columbia feeling like the smallest fucking man in Columbia and that I let my team down. Like, you're not going to tell your dad that. You're going to look at your dad and you're going to be like, I'm all right. Like, I'm all right. Like, it sucked, but like, you know, I love you. Like, it's all right.
Oh yeah.
So hard about that. This goes for mom, this goes for sister, this goes for everybody, right? What's so hard about that is it's like you are kind of operating out of a non-truth and you're doing it to protect them. But
Yeah.
then they call you on Monday and they're like, so Brady, what's UMass look like? Like, how's this thing look? And you're like, dude, can you guys shut the fuck up? Like, I don't want to talk about that. And they're like,
Yeah.
what's wrong? What's wrong? And you're like, the fuck do you think is wrong? But you have to bite your tongue. You have to bite your
Yep.
tongue. And this is that part where like parents hit me up all the time, right? And they're like, what's going on for the guy? Like, what's going on? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, let me tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
Here's my words, not his.
Do you want to know? Do you want to know?
Do you really want to know? Like, let me ask you that. Do you
You
really
don't.
want to know before
You
we
don't.
go into it? And like that mask is mask 1 with your parents. Mask
Yep.
2, what do you say when the press starts asking questions?
Yeah.
Do you regret what you said to the media about not being able to play or it not being loud at Kyle Field or because practice is much louder? Like, do you regret that? Yeah, I didn't even really say it, but I hear you. And yes, I regret it. Okay,
Yeah.
well, how does it feel to be in this position? How the fuck do you think it feels?
It feels great. I just got my fucking ass kicked. I'm
Right.
smiling. What are you, like an idiot?
Dude, you go back and now you're in the locker room, like you're on campus, and it's like, how are you doing? How you doing? How the fuck do you think I'm doing? Like, and this,
Yeah, right. Like,
dude, this is where I've been extremely candid about like a lot of the reason that I'm so passionate about what I do and that I approach this thing so psychologically intensive and that I've designed my whole life to pursue this is because it's like, dude, I lost track of whether I was fucking wearing a mask or not.
yeah,
Like, I didn't know whether the mask was me or whether the mask was some fucking imposter that I had to act like to everybody else.
yeah.
And
There's a lot of masks, dude. Yeah.
a lot of fucking masks. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, mine got a lot of different colors after all the situations that I've been in. But I think I've lit up most of my masks. I think have been on fire at this point and burned. But it's just a really, really tough spot to be in. And because he's somebody that we love and care about, like Mitch, what would you say to Brady right now? What would you tell him?
Man, find those 1 or 2 people that you don't have to wear your mask in front of and just. That always helped me, and those are always the fellas. Always the fellas. I had about 2 or 3 guys that I didn't have to wear my mask in front of, and just talk to them because then they felt it too, like and we always talked about this and yeah, like I love my parents, but like I wasn't gonna tell my mom, oh mom, I actually want to die. Like I feel like this is the worst I've ever felt in my life. I literally do not want to go into the facility tomorrow. I don't want to go to class on Monday. I don't want to see anybody for the next week. But I don't have a choice. Like, what am I gonna tell my mom that and then she's gonna leave me? Like, no way. My mom's gonna have the worst week of her life. Like, so it's just finding those people that you don't have to wear your mask in front of. Mine was Austyn. Mine was, 2 or 3 of my best friends at Wake, my brother, and just talk to them and just hash it out. It always feels good to talk about it, and it always ends in some laughs because they're going through it too. Most of those guys that you can take your mask off in front of know what it's like and are going through it too. So it's but yeah, just try to find those people. It's
And
tough.
I think what Mitch just said is really the only way that we could truly let it go.
Yeah.
Like, you can bite your mouthpiece 10 times harder and watch 10 more hours of tape and try to lose yourself in the shit, but you are quite literally losing yourself in the shit.
Yeah.
So I think, a big thing too, and like it's always so paradoxical, you well know from dealing with me, like oftentimes I tell you to do the thing that is actually the opposite of what you think at that time. So like a suggestion of mine would be, dude, you're through 5 weeks of the season. And after 5 weeks of the season, like we play UMass this week. We're going to kick the shit out of UMass. That's just, there's no way that Mizzou is going to be asleep going on the road to UMass after that last game.
Yeah.
We're going to kick the shit out of UMass. Dude, take your girlfriend out to dinner. Go on a walk in nature. Take some time and separate yourself.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's where you remember who the fuck you are.
Exactly.
not who number 12 is.
No doubt.
And I think, as Mitch talks about all the time, as we talk about self-awareness all the time, like coming back to that identity as opposed to fighting to uphold and worry about the one identity that is number 12.
Yeah.
I think is a huge thing that you could do for yourself. So that's a 40-minute episode. We eclipsed 40
We hit
minutes, I believe, for the first time. And no better episode to do it than for my dog down at Mizzou. And I know you got a community of guys that are praying for you, bro. And we know that you can come out of this and shine on through the rest of the season and really show everybody who you are. But that was a tough punch to take. And I think after the cascade of events that kind of led into it and how it happened, it does present an opportunity to kind of surrender and let go of some shit. Mitch, anything else? Or are we concluding episode 26?
That's it for me. That's it for me.
And we got an episode filmed with KJ Carta-Samuels that is coming out. And we got Billy Wiles on the mic tomorrow. Woo-hoo-hoo. It's up, boys. It's up. Well, I love you, Mitch. I love you guys. And we'll see you next week.